What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm Brian Kostiw, and we have got a great episode in store for you. Been a little bit since I've been on, trying to get back to a twice-a-week schedule, but with classes, might just be doing a once-a-week. So we'll keep you posted on that. But nonetheless, I'm glad to be back on air, and I'm glad to be back with a great guest on the show today. He's been on the past couple episodes. Zeke Kransdorf, the voice of the Bryant Bulldogs. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back yet again. I'm excited to do another episode.
Absolutely, man. So we've got a lot to talk about in MLB news. Chaim Bloom, former general manager of the Red Sox, is out. We'll discuss that as well as some college football predictions from the courtesy of Zeke. And then we'll also dive into the NFL as well and discuss the Patriots falling short of the Philadelphia Eagles in their week 1 matchup and preview their week 2 matchup against the Miami Dolphins and so much more. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers as well, because that was a bombshell news story. But first, Zeke, we are going to discuss MLB first, because that is the most that's the first, foremost, biggest story going on right now in the Boston sports market. Chaim Bloom, general manager of the Red Sox, brought in 4 years ago to, try to help the team cut payroll and, change up their philosophy from when Dave Dombrowski took over the general managership. He is out. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are immediately on this as this news broke yesterday.
When I heard this news, a smile lit across my face. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. He did not do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
We saw under his tenure a lot of big stars unhappy, a lot of big stars leaving, whether it was their own choice or whether it was trades. And it was just, there's no nice way to put it, but just a tire fire, really.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with you, and it got really bad at times. I mean, I remember specifically when when his predecessor Dave Dombrowski took over as the head of the team. I remember just like when Dave Dombrowski was announced as general manager, I was ecstatic about the news, and I remember like celebrating with my friends because I knew, all right, we're gonna get a guy in here who's gonna come in and spend a lot of money, make some great trades, and help us contend for a championship, which he did. Inevitably, he may have gone a little too far and maybe spent a little bit too much money, but at the end of the day, he put together that powerhouse of that 2018 team, and they were just an absolute wagon the entire time. They won 108 games in the regular season, total, I think, 119 wins overall in the year. So they were great to see, and I had a ton of fun watching them my senior year of high school. The next year, they bottom out and they finish in 3rd place in the AL East, and they don't even let him finish out the season that year. They tank him and they say, all right, we're going to change up our philosophy. They brought in Chaim Bloom. And this is going back like 4 years now, so I kind of have to think back on my philosophy at the time. But I remember even when the hiring was made, I hadn't heard much about Chaim Bloom. And since, and at that time, I was kind of not as tuned into baseball as I was. When I was younger, I had a better idea of like all the executives and the big names. But even then, I had a hard time even trying to figure out who Chaim Bloom was, what he stood for, and what his philosophy was going to be. Inevitably, it was this, that they were going to try to make a model of Tampa Bay up in Boston with the resources of the Red Sox. Only one of those things ended up happening, though, because you had those great stars in Mookie Betts, in Xander Bogaerts, and there was a promise that we're going to make an effort to keep these guys. But in the end, we only ended up getting to keep one of those 3 stars, and that was Rafael Devers, who is having a struggling year this year, but I do believe in him as well. But looking back on it, this was just a bad move from the start.
Yeah, just the concept, take the Tampa Bay Rays and put them up in Boston with Boston's sort of payroll. There's a reason why Tampa Bay existed the way it did,
yes.
Right? It's because they had those limited access and limited resources.
Mm-hmm.
Boston didn't have that issue. Boston had plenty of money to throw around, and you see these other big market teams like New York Yankees, like the LA Dodgers. They are able to build these huge, massive powerhouse teams because they actually take advantage of using all the resources that they have at their disposal.
Yeah.
The Red Sox have those same resources, chose not to use them, and then complain when people don't want to show up for like $40 tickets.
Yeah. Listen, Zeke, I'm going to say this. When it comes to the philosophy of Moneyball, I like the movie. I think that it can work in some aspects of the game, and it can help you decide, all right, like what fourth outfielder do we want to have on the team? Do we want to pay this guy $10 million, or do we want this other guy that we can pay, $5 million and work around a contract here and there? I like how I think it's good in certain scenarios, but for running big operations, bringing in stars for a team, I just don't think it's sustainable. And in my opinion, I've said this on the show before, there hasn't been an example in my mind of a team operating solely on the Moneyball philosophy that has gone on to win the World Series. The only team that has come close, and that I have mentioned, is the Kansas City Royals. And they didn't really operate on the Moneyball philosophy. They just got very lucky raising an incredible young farm system with Eric Hosmer, Alex Gordon, Lorenzo. Well, they brought in Lorenzo Cain, but just bringing in all these young stars and being able to build something up from the ground up, and then getting some pitching later on when you got Johnny Cueto. But they actually did have to go out and spend and make some big deals and make some trades, which Chaim Bloom was never going to do for this Red Sox team. Deadline after deadline, he went in and they were begging for help. 2021, when they made that run to the ALCS, especially, I'll give him credit. He went out and he made a deal. He brought in Kyle Schwarber, and he was great for us. I mean, but the only reason we got him so cheap was because he was injured that season. Otherwise, it would have taken a much bigger prospect haul to get him, and I don't think he would have done it. In 2022, we were in a very similar situation where we could have maybe snuck into a playoff spot, made some noise, but he decided to stand pat at the deadline and just didn't really go for it. This year, same situation again. 3 games out of the final wild card spot, and when the team was saying, "Hey, we think we can make a run, give us some pieces," he kind of threw his hands up in the air and said, "I'm going to give you Luis Arias from the Brewers. That's it." And that's just not going to do it at this level. I understand that you value these pieces in your farm system, and you think that they're going to be great additions to your big league ball club, but not all of them are going to be stars. And it's your job as well to not just bring in this talent and accrue it and, have all these guys come up and come to the big leagues. You also need to sift through and say, hey, this guy I think can really be an impact player for us down the line. And then this guy I don't think is going to live up to his potential. And you have to be able to sell those guys to other teams. And that's something I think Dave Dombrowski actually did really well at during his time here. He was able to go out and say, all right, we have the number 1 prospect in baseball in Yoan Moncada. Everyone wants him, but I think we can send him off to the White Sox, get Chris Sale, and get a certified bona fide ace on this team. And they did that. They sent him along with Michael Kopech and a couple of their prospects. They got him in. And then they did the same thing as well the season prior, getting Craig Kimbrell on this team by trading away Manuel Margot, who, credit to him, has had a solid major league career, but definitely didn't live up to the hype that I think a lot of people thought he was going to. So I think that was one of the areas where Chaim struggled, because he could bring in these smaller pieces and it was like, oh, this is like a nice little fit. Rob Refsnyder, good 4th outfielder to have on the team. Nice piece. But he never was able to really put all his chips on the table and say, you know what, I'm going to go in and make this deal.
And you know what? That's really what it means to be a general manager.
Yeah.
Essentially, you have to sort of work and you have to be able to sell your prospects to another team and sort of fleece other general managers.
Yeah.
And time again, instead of being the fleecer, Chaim Bloom was the fleecee.
Yeah. And it's not always about fleecing teams. I mean, like, listen, you want to win the deal, but at the end of the day, you just want to make you want to do whatever you can to make the major league club better. And I think Chaim did a lot to make the minor league teams better. I mean, our system went from, I think, the last ranked team in all of baseball when Dombrowski was fired. I think we were dead last. And now I think we have the number 5 system in all of baseball. I give him credit for that. He was able to build it up. But now the job of that is, when you have a top farm system in baseball, that means you have chips available to go out and, spend and make some things happen. So that's the area where I think he could have done better. But now we sit here and I think the question is, what are they going to do now? Because, I mean, this is something that the Red Sox have been doing ever since Theo Epstein left, where it's just been very major regime changes. I mean, once Theo left, he was a pretty good, perfect blend. After he took off, we brought in Ben Sherrington, who was very much similar to Chaim Bloom, was kind of, kept things close to the chest, didn't really spend until that 2013 season when he brought in Jake Peavy and made a bunch of moves like that. And then after that season blew up, he said, all right, I'm going to, sell things off, get rid of these guys. I remember he ended up having that big fire sale in 2014, getting rid of John Lester, John Lackey, and was trying to reassemble the team. and got some solid pieces like Joe Kelly, but other guys like Alan Craig never panned together for us. After he left, we got Dombrowski, which was the big baseball high up guy, gonna spend big, gonna make big, crazy contracts, sign David Price. And, I, as a Red Sox fan, you love that because all right, regardless of whether we're gonna be in it or not, we're gonna be getting some good players at the ballpark. It's gonna be a fun time going to Fenway. So when he went away and Chaim came in, I had my questions as to what's the incentive going to be to go to the park, and I think we're seeing that now. Where I saw that some tickets at Fenway now are going for like $1, and you have like only like a couple thousand fans showing up to a series against the Yankees.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see sort of how much they've fallen.
When I started watching the Red Sox, Zeke, back in like 2013, and I was in, when they were selling out the ballpark, doing these great things, they have never felt this irrelevant in my lifetime. And I'm still a diehard baseball fan. It's the number one sport that I live and die by. But yeah, I can't help but just be turned off by what I'm seeing from them. There's nothing to really hook me anymore and get me invested into this team. I look at them and I say, all right, like I still like Rafael Devers. There are still some faces that I can resonate with, but there's nothing on this team that inspires me. Even when they were bad and they were in last place, you could see a vision with Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts, and you could say, all right, those are some guys we can build around. And we have a future with those two, with like those pieces of this team. Right now, obviously, you can look at Devers and have some faith in him, as well as Tristan Casas and Brian Bayo. But I just don't see the path right now. And I think it's going to take a really drastic offseason to make that thing happen.
Yeah, it's tough to get butts in the seats when there's nothing to root for.
You need stars.
And I love a lot of the players that we have on the roster,
100%.
but they're not, with all due respect to them, they're multi-billionaires, and I'm sitting here inside a college radio station.
Yeah.
But they're not like these big name draws like we had in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, Tristan Casas, I think, has the ability to be that. He has a chance to be like a Joey Votto, Freddie Freeman type. He's that good. And I think he has the ability to really maybe be a 40 home run guy in the future. So I want to give him credit, and Brian Bayo too. But yeah, Cedar Rafaela, I like what he's showing with the team so far. But yeah, I just don't know what it's going to look like so far. And I mean, the Rays are an interesting team to watch, but there's nothing really with them that always hooks me. They have great pitching, and I think that they are a very sustainable product. I don't feel the same way about the Red Sox. And I look now at the Red Sox, and I got to ask you, Zeke, what do you think they're going to do here? Do you think they're just going to hire a guy similar to Chaim Bloom's philosophy, or do you think that they're actually going to go back in and, try to spend again?
I'll tell you what I hope is the case. I hope that they go back to sort of that Dombrowski style where, you go out, you get the big name players. Not only does it drive ticket prices, it drives people wanting to go to your ballpark.
Sure.
It puts butts in the seats. And at the end of the day, that's really what you need.
Yeah.
Plus, it will make, it'll hopefully get you more wins. If it doesn't get you more wins, then that's also an issue. But like
jersey sales will be through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. That's you're going to get some money in some other ways.
Yeah.
So I hope that they go back to that sort of philosophy where you bring in free agents, you actually, make trades. Nothing against some of the farm system people as well, but I want big name players.
No, 100%. And that's what they're supposed to be used for. They're supposed to be trade chips to help get guys like that in the system. So I don't necessarily think we need to go back to a full Dombrowski mentality, because I mean, even though I loved it when I was 15 years old, I loved watching it for all the years when it was going on. I understand that it's not a sustainable product. You can maybe get 3-4 years out of it, potentially get a championship, at which, you could probably say it's all worth it, which in 2018 it was. We got that championship. But now you look at it and it's like, all right, we had to completely reset the deck. I want to, if you're the Red Sox, I think you want to try to get something more sustainable, which I think the Dodgers are like the gold standard of it. The Yankees are trying to get back to this, but I mean, you look at the Dodgers, and not only are they spending at the top of the market and getting these great guys, but they also are amazing at developing young talent. And they have just like all these young prospects coming up year after year. And not only are they producing for the Dodgers, they're also able to then take even pretty good ones as well, and then flip them in trades and get talent in just like left and right. Like they are just amazing with that. And that's what Andrew Friedman, who was a former Tampa Bay executive, he was the GM down there. He got the job out in LA, and a lot of people said, "Oh, Dodgers are going to get cheap now." No, he just had to play with the Rays wallet. As soon as he was able to touch the Dodgers box, he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll sign these guys to $300 million contracts. Mookie Betts, I'll give you whatever the hell you want." And I think that, a lot of people thought that he was going to start to play cheap. No, he just had to play within the limits of what he was given. And I think the Red Sox need to find a guy that can, value the farm system and build guys up, but is also going to pay attention to the major league product.
Yeah.
You
just need that balance.
Yeah.
Somewhere between Dombrowski and Bloom.
So yeah. And I mean, listen, I saw people originally saying like, hey, Theo Epstein was in Boston recently. Bring him back into the fold. And I would love that, because to just run it back to like the early 2000s and bring Theo in. I mean, not only did he do great things with Boston for 2 years, he also went out to Chicago and ended the curse out there, which, the tall task that was. He brought an amazing talent, and his whole philosophy was, raising up these young prospects, and then he went out and bought pitching. So, I mean, that's not the worst idea to do, is, get him in and have him watch over the farm system, do things like that. But I also know that Sam Kennedy just came out as well and said that he's not in consideration for either of those two spots, either the GM or the president of baseball ops. So it could open. I was hearing on 98.5 The Sports Hub, though, that they had talked about maybe he gets into an ownership position, and, they have him as like even higher up than a president of baseball ops. So who knows? I'd love for Theo to come back. I think he would be great to just have back in the building and just be a voice, because I think that he's a really good baseball mind, but he also understands the analytics of the game and could help, differentiate all that stuff.
Yeah, I would be A-okay with having Theo Epstein back.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we have in MLB news. I do want to hop over into college football real quick before we touch on the NFL. Zeke, coming up this weekend, Bryant is facing Brown. There were some talks. I know that, people were wondering, are they going to even be able to get this game in, just because of how crazy the high winds and the weather was going to be. They are going to have a kickoff tomorrow. Winds are going to look to be around 30 miles an hour. So good luck to any kicks even trying to make it to the end zone on a kickoff. So it's going to be a really grounded pound type of day, I think. But give me your thoughts on Bryant going into this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I saw last weekend at the Bryant versus LIU game, Bryant seemed to be pretty solid. I mean, it was a really controlled offensive philosophy. That was another game that was sort of dominated by the elements, I would say. That one more rain and slick conditions than wind. But Bryant can run the football. Between Fabrice McKendy and between Simi Bakari, the Fresno State transfer, they have a ground game. Eckhouse can run the ball too.
Yeah.
Right. They have a ground game. The real test really comes through with the offensive play calling, because yes, they can run the football, but I know they want to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And it's like that same mentality that I have whenever I play NCAA football 14. I know I can run the football, and I know I should run the football, but it's a little bit more fun to pass.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they actually shift that offensive philosophy to really play into the elements, or whether or not they still try to go with maybe some quick screens or some short passes.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested, too, to see how they handled things in terms of special teams. I know Ethan Getman, their kicker last week, had some struggles out the gate. So, if wind is not going to be in your favor, you had a kicker who, had some troubles to at least start the season. I think that Getman he's a stud kicker. He's going to figure things out. But with that just playing a factor, I think that you could also see some, in some short yardage situations, them going for it on fourth down, even pretty close to the goal line. I think that's definitely in play as well.
I would agree. I mean, listen, I'm fairly confident that the Bulldogs can win this football game. They played Brown last year. It was at Brown. Game went to 2 overtimes. They lost in the second overtime. They played Brown again 2 years ago here at Burns Stadium, and they came out with a victory in another close game. So these two teams, not only is it a rivalry game, but it's also they have a consistent they're consistently playing close games against each other.
100%. So I think that's going to be something to really look forward to. But also, Zeke, I have some other things that, and actually, first, before we get into the other picks that you have going on,
Sure.
I do just want to say, if you want to listen to Zeke's call of the game, you can listen to that on WJMF Radio 88.7 HD2 or at WJMFradio.com. It's where we stream this show on. So make sure if you want to listen to that call, you can listen to it right on this station as well. So just wanted to plug that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, Zeke, back to your picks though. I want to hear, what is your big game of the week that, you think everyone should be looking forward to in college football? You're the college football guy, so I will pass that off to you.
All right. So today, or not today, but this weekend is week 3 of the college football season. So a lot of teams are still in their out of conference slate. And the biggest game is a big storyline. Mainly it was brought up last year, but it's still continuing on. It's the return of the backyard brawl. Now, these two teams, Pitt versus West Virginia, they have a long history of hatred.
Yeah.
Dating all the way back to 2000, years ago. But the biggest matchup before.
Please don't tell me years ago to you is the year 2000.
No. I was going to say, there was one specific one that people bring up all the time.
Fair
it was
enough.
2007.
Okay.
West Virginia had the number 2 team in the nation at that time. They were looking to go to the BCS National Championship. Again, at the time, that's what it was.
Sure. Yep. I know.
And they go and they have a home game where Pitt was 3-9, and they were having a rough season. And Pitt goes into West Virginia and upsets the number 2 team in the nation, knocks them out of the national title hopes during a rivalry game. A lot of commits that went to that game flipped to Pitt. Again, a lot of drama. So if you are going to only tune into one game this weekend, tune into the Bryant one on WJMFradio.com. If you're going to, watch a game on national TV, it's going to be on ABC at 7:30. Pitt versus West Virginia, the backyard brawl. Rivalry football is just always, very fun. Regardless, even if you're not invested in the rivalry, these two teams do not like each other. These two fan bases do not like each other. And West Virginia, those Mountaineers fans get after it.
Yeah. And now, Zeke, the other pick that I have for you today is going to be the upset. We've been seeing so many upsets this year to start the college football season, with Duke upsetting Clemson. And then also last week when Texas took down number 3 Alabama. Another close upset that we saw as well, potential one that we saw last week was Holy Cross from Worcester going into Boston College and nearly getting the win there. They lost by 3 points, but an FCS school doing that to BC was that could have been really,
especially after a long rain delay, really killed their momentum.
Oh, exactly. So, there's been so many potential upsets this season, and I want to just know, who is your potential pick for an upset this week?
Yeah. So, when I'm looking at upsets, it's always good to see which teams are sort of those upset-minded teams.
Yeah.
A team that's already upset a team before tends to upset more teams, right?
Fair enough.
A great example of this would be last season with Appalachian State. They went, they played North Carolina very, very close in their opening game. It was a high-scoring affair. Then week 2, they played Texas A&M and upset them in College Station. And then they come back home and win on a last-second Hail Mary against Troy, a Troy team that won the Sun Belt. So upset-minded teams are something to look out for. And this year, the upset-minded team that I'm looking out for is the Northern Illinois Huskies.
Okay.
Northern Illinois, week 1, goes into Boston College and beats Boston College in overtime.
Okay.
Now, granted, this is a Boston College team that barely beat Holy Cross, FCS team, but
Hey, the Crusaders are dogs, though. They're amazing.
So after that big high, right, Northern Illinois goes and they play an FCS team in Southern Illinois, and they lose.
Ooh.
I think they want revenge.
Okay.
And they have a returning starter. He's like a 7th-year senior, Rocky Lombardi, former Michigan State transfer. He played for Michigan State during the COVID year. It's been a while. He's been there for a decent amount of time.
Sure.
Northern Illinois is going to play Nebraska at Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska is awful. There's no way around it. Now, they fired Scott Frost last year. They brought in Matt Rule, former Panthers coach. And Matt Rule is great at building programs. but building programs takes a couple years.
Yeah.
So year one of the Matt Rule system always is terrible. They have a Georgia Tech quarterback, former Georgia Tech quarterback, Jeff Sims. He's inept. He can run the football, and he can't throw it, which is what you want from a quarterback. So if I'm looking at offensive potential, Northern Illinois has more offensive potential than Nebraska does. Obviously, the talent's there. Obviously, the home setting's there. That's why it's an upset. I'm picking Northern Illinois over Nebraska.
Interesting. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I 1 second. I'm just trying to look something up real quick. But yeah, so you mentioned Appalachian State, man. As a Michigan Wolverines fan, you're talking about upsets. Yeah, that's a dagger straight to the heart. I'm not gonna lie, right there.
Oh, back in 2007?
Yeah, that one.
Armani Edwards.
That one was brutal. No, there was another football story that I had mentioned that I actually forgot to mention for college, and it was that Alabama is going to be potentially having a new starting quarterback this week. Tyler Buckner or
Tyler Buckner.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Notre Dame quarterback.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out. I just wanted to get the pronunciation correctly. He's going to be taking Jalen Milroe's job. So just some thoughts on that. The fact that after 2 weeks, Alabama is going to be handed the keys over. It doesn't seem like, since they had a great run of quarterbacks from you want to talk about Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and then into Bryce Young. And right now there's kind of a question mark. So what are your thoughts as Jalen Milroe heads to the bench?
Yeah. So it was sort of a very similar point to Jeff Sims. Milroe, he is really good at running the football.
Yes.
He adds that athletic element, and he struggles in the passing game. So when it comes to what you want out of a quarterback, do you want a quarterback who's a great runner but is only okay at passing, or do you want a quarterback who is pretty, like, he's solid, he's good at both, but he's not great at either?
Yeah.
So Buckner played for Notre Dame, is very familiar with Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator for the Crimson Tide system, played with him last year. It's tough to say whether it's an improvement or not. It's certainly going to be something different. And when you see different quarterbacks come in, look for a couple early penalties and everything like that, as the offensive line will adjust to the new snap count.
Absolutely. All right. So that was our little college football minute right there with Zeke. We're going to finish this show off with an NFL segment. So Zeke, we will talk about the Patriots. That's actually how we're going to finish off the show. But I think the big story across the NFL for everyone last week was the devastating injury with Aaron Rodgers. Everyone was so excited to see how he was going to fare starting off with the New York Jets. People were, wondering, is this going to be the time that the Jets finally turn it around and make a Super Bowl push? And that went kaput very quickly, as on the fourth play of his New York Jets career, Aaron Rodgers goes down with a torn Achilles. And man, it was just brutal to see. I mean, Zeke, I was in night class when it happened, so I just got like an update at the time that Rodgers was leaving the game, and I was like, this can't be real. And after seeing the video, seeing the injury, you literally see his Achilles tendon snap in real time. Very similar to the Kevin Durant injury a couple years ago when he was still with Golden State, where you literally see it ricochet up his calf, and it was just brutal to see.
Yeah. I will be honest, I am very squeamish. I did see the video. I wish I did not see the video. I mean,
even with a sock covering his leg.
Yeah.
It's still very apparent what happened there.
It was like a broken guitar string. It was
boing.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It was I when I was watching, I didn't really know what was going on, because he gets sacked, and then he gets back up and then sort of sits back down.
Yeah.
Like it.
At first, I thought when I saw that in real time, I thought he was just like I thought maybe like a timeout got called, or he was like, or something like a flag. He was like protesting a flag, or like something weird was happening, because he didn't go down in like wincing pain. He just kind of like sat back down and kind of accepted it, like, and was just kind of there. He didn't really seem like he was like in any discomfort. He kind of just sat down and was like, all right, I'm just sitting down on the play.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
it was very peculiar.
All credit to him, because if you tear your Achilles,
it's extremely painful,
and you just like straight face it, That's gotta be some sort of, you gotta be some kind of crazy.
I mean, he straight faced it, but he also knew enough to be like, all right, like this thing's gone. Like he did
Yeah.
know. It wasn't like he was like, oh yeah, I could keep playing, and they were like, no, Aaron, you're done.
No, yeah.
So like he kind of knew, and that's the thing too. And I mean, unfortunately, you could just see this thing coming, not in terms of like anything preemptive. I know he had a calf strain coming into the year, and some people say that's like a telltale sign that an Achilles injury is coming. But more than anything, just watch the plays leading up to the injury itself. The first play where he drops back and actually has to pass, he's getting pressured immediately. And I wasn't thinking an Achilles injury was in play, but I was just thinking, oh my God, he's gonna get killed back there. He's at least gonna have like broken ribs, or he's gonna take a shot to like the head, have a concussion, like he's gonna get knocked out some sort of way. In no way did I think it was gonna be what took him out, but I thought very easily he could have had like, a broken rib, broken leg, something like that could have happened to him just because, guys are just going to be exposing him. I thought that was definitely in play. But yeah, just it was a brutal injury. I mean, a lot of people are saying that just him scrambling there probably, put him in a tough situation and made it, really tough for him. So I don't know. Do you think that he is going to be able to make this comeback? It seems that he seems pretty it seems at least like he is wanting to, make a comeback right now. He'll be 40 years old when he's eligible to return from the injury. So what do you think? Do you think that he will play again?
I'm not a doctor, and nor do I claim to be, but it really comes down to how much does he want to come back?
Sure.
You know, Injuries, as much as a physical rehab at 40 years old is going to be tough, the mental part of it as well, because if you think about it, he's already he's been in the league for a while. He's played a lot of football.
Yeah.
And the injury toll throughout his career is already starting to tally up more and more and more. There's only so many hits a guy can take before he calls it quits.
Mm-hmm.
So how much more does he want to come back? And I don't know if you've heard about this story. Do you know about what he said to Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, he said, I saw that Garrett Wilson went in at halftime, and he just said to him, "Sorry, kid." That is heartbreaking. Actually, that's very sad to hear that. Garrett Wilson, he probably thought this is going to be his chance to go out, win a Super Bowl, prove himself as a wide receiver one, line himself up for a contract extension with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. And yeah, it all came crashing down in that moment. That I did see that.
So that might be another motivating factor as well. Coming back for these young teammates to be a mentor and everything like that. I fully expect that even, when he's on the sidelines or anything like that, not playing in the games, but hopefully still being a mentor for Zach Wilson.
I think he'll still be at least a hell of a good quarterback coach for this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who the Jets quarterback coach is, but in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers takes precedent over him any day of the week. Like it's just as simple as that. And I do wonder what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. I think that he posted to Instagram and said that he'd be back, but this is also the guy that goes on darkness retreats and does like DMT with Joe Rogan and does all these crazy things. And, maybe he sees this as a sign from the universe, as Pat McAfee said, and says, all right, maybe this was never supposed to happen. Maybe I was supposed to hang it up. So I don't know. Like that, I guess you could leave that up for debate, but I do wonder what's going to be next for him. But with the Jets, man, with him going down, it opens this division right on up, because although the Jets lost him, they didn't lose the game. They hung on to win in overtime on a crazy kickoff, on a crazy punt return touchdown. I know people were talking about a leg whip at the end that didn't get called, but in the end, it goes in the record books as a Jets W. The Bills looked really off in their first game. Josh Allen was horrid, like four picks and 3 to the same guy. So, I have some questions. I mean, I think the AFC East might be a little bit more open than people thought.
Yeah, I mean, it was a similar thing last year where everyone was hyping up the AFC West, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God,
the
Patrick
Broncos,
Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, and then Justin Herbert. Like all 4 of these quarterbacks are all going to be vying for best division in football. We were hearing the same thing about the AFC East.
Yeah.
And the second I heard that, the same sort of rhetoric used about the AFC East as they used about the AFC West last year, I was like, oh, something's going to happen. I think that, we're going to get into the Patriots shortly, but I think that with the Jets winning and Aaron Rodgers going down, and I think both of those combined is like the best case scenario for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see a guy get injured, but at the end of the day, it does help this team.
It helps the Patriots, and the Bills' loss really helps the Patriots as well.
Yeah.
So
because in my opinion, you get as long as the Patriots, for lack of a better term, do their job and, and stick to what, and, play competent football, which I know can sometimes be a challenge for this team, then I think you get your 2 free wins back against this Jets team, which was going to be called into question this year. And, if the Bills are going to if Josh Allen is still having these troubles, maybe you could steal a game from them. And I think that could make things really interesting down the stretch. Now, I know they have a division game coming up this week against the Dolphins. We'll preview that. But in regards to the Patriots, Zeke, they just had a really interesting game to open the season. They fell to the Eagles, but they played them really well. I will say this. They started the game off in a really bad hole, let up a touchdown early and then on the pick 6 and then had a fumble like the very next play. And I was thinking, oh my God, this thing is going to go right down the tubes. Like we could be seeing like a 30-4 game, like a 30-7 game at halftime or something. This thing's going to be ugly.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was 2 or 3 offensive series in for the Eagles, and they had already put up like 17 points. 16 points. Sorry. 16 points.
And I am like, at this point, like terrified. I'm like, oh my God, the Patriots, and I'm thinking to the Patriots of last year, I'm like, they're not, there's no way we can come back from this. We're screwed. But I will give them credit for this. For the first time in at least, I'd say 2 years. I mean, you could, I will say that I will say this about the team 2 years ago. It looked like a competent offense. It looked like an NFL offense. And that's what happens when you have an offensive coordinator back there.
It was so refreshing.
Yes.
So refreshing to watch a Patriots game and not hate myself.
Yes. And like, I didn't want to just like completely like claw my eyes out watching this offense. It was actually like the word you use, Zeke, refreshing. It was just nice to see them actually go out there and look like a football team. And the fact that Mac Jones looked very similar to his rookie self, if not better in this game. I know he had some struggles early on with the pick, but finished the game 35-54, 316 yards, 3 TDs, and then the pick. Not a bad day at the office for him.
No, and are there still some things to be desired? Absolutely.
100%.
You want to get the win. We had multiple opportunities to get that win, and
you can't be looking at moral victories in year 3 of a quarterback.
Yeah. He has to finish out the game. He has to get you the win. But it is showing some promise from where we saw him last year and where we saw this entire team last year.
Yeah. I mean, last year, his confidence was completely shot. I thought that we might have just completely ruined the guy. So I think this is a really promising thing to see him get back into, looking similar to his old self. And I think that could be really big key for us going forward. Now, another piece of this team that I liked as well, and it was great to see him back on the field, was Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, I can't believe it. He only had 1 touchdown all of last season. He had 2 in the first week. I love that. And it was probably it was completely incidental. It was, just how things turned out. But that's the biggest FU to Matt Patricia that I can imagine. It's like, hey, you only wanted to use this guy all of last season for as a part of 1 touchdown. You put him in your doghouse. All right, we're going to go to him twice because we think that he's that good of a weapon, and he is that good for us. So I'm glad that they were able to get him back in the mix. Like you said, there's still things I think we need to polish up with this team. One thing of concern I heard right now is that the Patriots may not even view Juju Smith-Schuster as, one of their top 5 wide receivers. And for the money he just got this offseason, I think he got like $13 million a year over 3 years. So that's very concerning to hear. So, still some things that need to be worked out.
Yeah, I will say, some of the receivers that really impressed me. Kendrick Bourne, obviously.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry had a great catch on 4th down.
Yeah.
To convert that, move the chains.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good touchdown catch as well. I want to see a little bit more out of Mike Gesicki.
Yep.
I want to see a lot more out of some of the free agents we picked up, like Juju Smith-Schuster. I want to see more out of Ezekiel Elliott because,
I didn't mind Elliott in this game. I think he could definitely get some more usage, but I liked what I saw from him. Other than the fumble, obviously, like we'll count that into it.
I was going to say maybe like more involvement into the passing game,
sure,
because we know at least in his heyday, Zeke was a pretty good pass catcher, not me, the running back. Want to clarify that, but some of these free agent pieces, I feel like they haven't really been utilized in the best way yet.
That's fair.
But there's still plenty of time in the season to utilize them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, as we kind of look forward into week 2, I actually, one other thing I wanted to discuss as well about week 1 before we discuss the Dolphins. Another special thing about this game today, it was the return of Tom Brady to Foxborough, and not in a Bucs uniform. That's the big thing that to preface. This was the first time he came back wearing a Patriots jersey, walked down the field, did its "Let's Go" celebration, had a speech at halftime. Did you catch any of that? What were your quick thoughts on that?
I didn't get a chance to catch the speech per se, but I did see plenty of clips and highlights. I saw him ringing the bell. It's nice. It's nice to see Tom Brady come back home. And it's like seeing like that like one family member who missed the last family Christmas party, but you're getting to see them for the first time, and it's all the memories flooding back, and you just bring them in, give them a big old hug.
Yeah, I was glad to see him back as well. It was a good time. So happy to have that. But now we move on to week 2. We're facing the Miami Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. We're going to be wearing the Pat the Patriots, a throwback red. So I'm excited to see those get debuted again this year. And going up against a Dolphins team that, went off against the LA Chargers. Tua had over 500 yards passing. I think or it was close to.
I think it was like 460.
It was close to it. Okay. See, he had my bad. It was 460. I think he had like a couple touchdowns as well. But then Tyreek Hill also had a great game. He still looks dynamic as ever. So, the Dolphins as an offensive scheme are always moving things around, shifting, and there's always a ton of movement with them. What are some things that you think the Patriots are going to have to really work on going into this matchup again, going into this game?
I mean, it's not something that they need to work on specifically, but it's going to be certainly an interesting challenge to see.
Sure.
How will our sort of new face secondary look against the Dolphins defense or Dolphins offense?
Yeah,
because Dolphins, at least what they're going for is speed.
Mm-hmm.
They want to move quickly. They want to, run hurry up. They want to, have speed down the field. Jalen Waddle's fast. Tyreek Hill's fast. They have a very fast team. And to combat against a fast team, you either need to be A, more physical than they are, or 2, just as fast as they are. Now we drafted
it's tough to be faster than Tyreek Hill.
I was gonna say it's a little tough. It's a big ask. So we drafted Christian Gonzalez in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
We've drafted Marcus Jones, Jack Jones. We have Jonathan Jones. We got a lot of Joneses in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kyle Duggar. We have
all of them are out of jail for the time being.
This is true. That was not always going to be the case.
No,
this is true.
It was that was very much up in the air for a while.
But it's going to be interesting to see how all of these pieces, all of these young players that we have, how they can fare against the Dolphins offense, because I hate to break it to you guys, but we're going to be playing the Dolphins a lot.
Yeah.
They're in our division. We're going to have to play them at least twice every season.
And Bill has yet to win against Tua. So we're going to have to see, can he finally get over that hump and beat him too?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not, 1, we can win, and 2, how our defense matches up. Because I would say the defense looked pretty impressive against Jalen Hurts last week.
Yeah.
And he had some pretty good weapons as well. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. We managed to hold them in check for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if they can replicate that performance. Let's see if you can go 2 for 2.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, this is a must-win game for the Patriots. I hate to say that this early in the season, but it just kind of, when you can't really go down 0-2 to start a season. Like once you do, your odds of really making a playoff push and being successful, they drop dramatically. So I think that this is a game that the Patriots really need to have, and it's going to be challenging. I know the Dolphins try to usually play the Patriots pretty tough. But one thing I do know is that in the recent years, Belichick has gotten better at managing Tyreek Hill. That was something when Tyreek Hill first burst on the scenes with the Chiefs. Bill really had no answers for him, and he was able to run all over the Patriots. I remember the season opener we had against them after the Super Bowl. He'd had like a 70-yard, just screamer right down the sideline, and just just shredded the defense. I remember Devin McCourty was just left in a cloud of dust behind him. So I think he's gotten better at managing him, even if you're not having guys speed with having guys track him in terms of speed. You can kind of shut him down and track his routes a little bit better. And it's going to be a matter of old school football with the Patriots having your 2 and 3s beat us. I think they see Tyreek as the number one option, and they're going to say, all right, we're going to try to do everything we can to shut him down, and it's going to be up to Jalen Waddle and all those guys to have to make the deciding plays and win the game. So, in your opinion, Zeke, going into this matchup, how do you think the Patriots are going to fare? Do you have them getting the win?
I think that based on what I saw last week from both of these teams, it will certainly be a tough matchup. I think that the Patriots can get the win. But that really, again, it comes down to weather conditions again, because we saw how weather sort of affected early on in the game when it was still wet, still raining. That's when Mac Jones started to struggle a little bit with the interception and everything like that, fumbles, so on and so forth. But because I don't, if you're a listener of this show and not from the local area, there's been a hurricane coming in the area. So if there are plenty of winds, I feel like the Patriots are a better team equipped for running the football than the Dolphins are.
The Patriots are at least during this era, have been a historically good bad weather team. You look at how they went, and the last time we played in a hurricane up in Buffalo, we Mac Jones passed the ball 3 times the entire game, and we ground and pound, and we beat him that way. So that was a great example of when we were able to do that. And yeah, I think that it could be something very similar in this matchup.
If that's the case, I take the Patriots 100% because the Dolphins' run game is not nearly as potent as the Patriots' run game is. And the Patriots' run defense can, I believe, shut down the Dolphins' run game.
Yeah. I will say this. I think the Patriots and Dolphins, talent-wise, I think they can match up well against them. My only thing about them so far is that they are still a younger team, still have some inexperience with some rookies coming in. And I think what's been separating them for a while now is because they've been in a lot of these games, dating back a couple of years now when they faced the Dallas Cowboys, when they even faced Brady when he came back on the Bucs. They've been in a lot of these close and tight games and made things competitive. And what's been the deciding factor has just been little mistakes, but whether it's a late fumble or a pick or a guy just taking the offensive line kind of blowing up and, Mac Jones taking a really bad sack or the defense getting exposed in a very crucial situation. And I know, listen, these guys can't be perfect, but
Sean Booty not dragging the second foot,
things like that. That's exactly what separates it. So a good, football team, that wide receiver, he's tapping the toes and bounce. He's making that play. And that's just going to be what separates them. I think that if they can finally get over the hump, they have enough to do it. But I need to finally see them do it. So I have my doubts going into Sunday. I'm always going to root for the Patriots to win, but I would not be surprised if Miami pulls out the victory. So that's my take on that game. I'm rooting for them all the way, but I think that's what we have going on in the NFL. And Zeke, we are now down to the wire. It's about that time. So we're going to wrap up what we talked about on this show and get you guys on your way. Zeke actually has to go to a wrestling show tonight. He will not be a performer in such show. He is only a spectator. So I just want
to, of.
Yeah.
No, okay.
They're getting in the crowd.
Hey, what's this chair for?
Yeah, exactly. So he said he's going as a spectator, but we all know what he's really going for. He's really,
El luchador Zeke.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. What would your wrestling name be?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, Zeke the Freak is like what you've always kind of, that's your spam name, right?
Yeah. That's that. It would probably be like Devin Dynamite or something like that. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Doesn't use real names often.
I will not be previewing a wrestling name on this show, but I do want to say, Zeke, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really do thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned before, you can watch Zeke's broadcast of the Bryant men's football team tomorrow on WJMF 88.7 HD2 Smithville, Providence. That's where you can also watch this show on Fridays, typically at 7 p.m. That can always kind of be up in the air, though, just knowing how my schedule is. So I'll always keep you guys tuned and posted to that. So if you guys want to find out when I'm going to be doing these shows on air or just at all, you can find that on our Instagram at down.tothewire. We have links on there as well to all of our streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and our YouTube page. So make sure to go on there, give that a follow, and, go like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. So thanks again for tuning into the episode. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Zeke Kransdorf.
And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Peace out.